Welcome to Superhero Pow. I'm your host nerd, Tom Fremgen. You know, one of the most common complaints fans have about Superman is he's just too damn powerful. Unless he's fighting Thor, and then it's, what are you, crazy? Of course Thor would kick his ass. But be that as it may, I'm here to tell you that there are 10 villains who can clean Superman's clock. And I'm not talking about all-powerful beings like Darkseid, Imperial Axe, or even Mr. Mxyzptlk. I'm talking about characters who can punch their way to victory. So here's a list of the 10 toughest villains Superman has faced. Number 10, Bizarro. He's probably Superman's favorite slugfest villain. Though oddly enough, he was first created in Superboy comics as a teenager by a Professor Dalton. Half a year later, DC had Lex Luthor recreate Dalton's imperfect duplication device to create an adult Bizarro to battle Superman. And Bizarro's been around ever since, in some form or another. Although while imperfect, he is pound for pound a match for Superman. Although he has stuff like freezing vision instead of heat vision. Unfortunately for us fight fans, Bizarro often has no interest in fighting Superman, as he's often as good-natured as the Man of Steel himself. And when they do fight, Bizarro can easily be distracted by a shiny object or something. So while he's powerful enough to clean Superman's clock, Bizarro is more of a pest than anything else. Number 9, the Phantom Zone villains. Now I toss all these guys together because they're all relatively equal to Superman. Being criminals from Superman's home planet Krypton, they all have the same powers as Superman. Although, if it took years for Superman to develop his powers, then wouldn't it take them years to develop their powers? Right? Well, anyway, aside from the basic Kryptonian powers on Earth, none of them really stand out as a physical threat to Superman. General Zod is the most famous, but there's nothing really more about him to suggest he's a bigger physical threat than all the others. Non from the old Superman movies surely was, but he was never in the comics. More recently in the movies, Nam-Ek was created to be a bigger physical threat. But in the comics, Nam-Ek is just known for accidentally turning himself into a sad, stinky, immortal man-beast. And again, no greater threat than the rest of them. Oddly enough, the woman, Faora the Man-Hater, renamed Usla in the movies, is probably the biggest threat, as she's a highly trained combatant who also can fire psychic bolts. Though either way, all of them have the power to clean Superman's clock. Number 8, Subject 17 and Wrath. Here's another combo, as these characters are pretty much the same. Each one is a foil to Superman as a strange visitor from another planet with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Yet instead of being found by a loving couple, Subject 17 was found by the Russian government, and Wrath was found by the American government. So each one has been twisted by the respective government's ambitions. Wrath is a secret weapon, and Subject 17 is a lab rat, as the Russians tried to replicate his powers. Each one has no love for the petty human race, but while Wrath just has disdain for Superman, viewing him as naive, Subject 17 wants to kill him for defending all the humans that he really wants to kill. And, in both cases, Superman has to really be on his toes or he'll be sucking canvas. Number 7, Black Adam. While traditionally a Captain Marvel, or Shazam villain, Black Adam has mixed it up with Superman several times. Adam is from ancient Egypt and was originally chosen by the wizard Shazam to be the world's mightiest mortal. But as absolute power corrupts, Adam became Black Adam and tried to take over the world. The wizard banished him from Earth, but centuries later he's returned. In more recent times, Black Adam has been viewed more as an anti-hero, even joining the Justice Society of America for a while. Like Captain Marvel, Black Adam is a physical equal to Superman. Although with magically based powers, people often give him the edge. Personally, I feel Superman doesn't have a weakness to magic. It just works on him like everyone else. So casting a spell on you and Superman would have the same effects, opposed to shooting you and Superman with a gun. Only one of you is going to a hospital. Either way, Black Adam has the power to clean Superman's clock, but good. I said but. Number 6, Ultraman. No, not the Japanese guy. Superman's opposite number on Earth 3. the Earth with only supervillains, the home of the crime syndicate of America. And over the years, the two of them have fought from time to time, with neither one really claiming victory. Also over the years, writers have changed him from time to time. But what makes the most sense to me is Ultraman being Earth 3's Clark Kent / Krypton 3's Kal-el. And therefore, his greatest power is his belief in doing the right thing. Though his concept of right is different than our concept of right, being from Earth 3. So Ultraman's heart and courage is just as strong as Superman's. And just like Superman, Ultraman can dig down deep, secure in his belief of the greater good, again from his perspective, to defeat foes far more powerful than he is. This makes Ultraman one, if not the most dangerous foe Superman can fight, and of course he can clean his clock. Number 5. Doomsday. I'll bet you thought he was going to rank higher. Nope, he has one fatal flaw, which I'll mention in a moment. To start off with, Doomsday is an evolution experiment from the planet Krypton. In cloning a living being over and over again, until it became the most powerful thing on Krypton, the final clone, Doomsday, escaped into the universe and ended up on Earth. You would assume this would mean he could fly like Superman, but for whatever reason, you'd be wrong. He then famously killed Superman, or rather just knocked him into a coma. Which, hey, is still impressive. Though seriously, this Charlie Chaplin dual punch-out was the best they could come up with? Yeesh. They say Doomsday still has the ability to evolve, but without getting cloned again, I'm not sure how that makes sense. As for his fatal flaw, aside from having an IQ lower than Bizarro's, Doomsday fought post-crisis Superman, back when Superman was depowered from his planet-pushing height of the pre-crisis days. So therefore you can effectively argue that Doomsday is not as strong as pre-crisis Superman. And the next 4 villains can whip pre-crisis Superman. Number 4. Mongol, the intergalactic despot. Now when talking about Mongol, it's hard not to talk about his creators, Jim Starlin and Len Wein. While Wein first had the idea to create a villain as tough as Superman, it's more interesting to point out that Jim Starlin, who famously created Thanos, a ripoff of Darkseid for Marvel, was now creating a ripoff of Thanos for DC with Mongol. Either way, Mongol first appeared trying to use Superman as a pawn to take control of the war world, a planet-sized weapon system. Not the arena planet, as it's been portrayed lately. Oh, and this was post-Death Star. Anyway, Mongol soon learned that Superman was the biggest threat to his goals of taking over the universe, and they've been mixing it up ever since. And like a lot of Superman characters, Mongol has had his fair share of rewrites. Many not for the best. But back in the day, he actually punched out Superman. Pre-crisis Superman. Not a mean feat. Number 3, the Galactic Golem. Yet another attempt by Lex Luthor to create a being powerful enough to destroy Superman. Using galactic material, the very stuff the universe is made of, whatever that means, and powering it with galactic energy, the power cosmic for you Marvel fans, Lex Luthor created the Galactic Golem, a being only concerned with absorbing more galactic energy. After covering Superman with some, the fight was on. Superman and the Galactic Golem have only fought twice, and each time Superman mentions how outclassed he is, and had to resort to tricks to defeat him. So for a being that could probably snap Doomsday in 2, I'd say it's high time for a Superman Galactic Golem rematch. Number 2, Malodor the Dark Lord, an immortal warlord from another dimension, which seems kind of pointless, just call it another universe in the DC multiverse. Anyway, while being crazy powerful, there's nothing he enjoys more than physical combat. After conquering his universe, he set his eyes on other challenges. Discovering Superman from Earth 1 and Power Girl from Earth 2, he challenged them to a fight and whipped both of them. Superman, though, as always, had a trick up his sleeve and convinced Malodor to face himself, basically giving himself the patented Ghost Rider penitent stare. Faced by his own abominable evil, Malodor imploded. Since then, he's popped up a few more times as an extra-dimensional wrath trying to get a body. But again, Malodor would be another cool villain to see take on the Man of Steel again. Though, maybe we should update his look. And speaking of bad looks, number 1, the Composite Superman. Clearly one of the worst looking Superman villains ever, yet the most powerful as well. You see, a lowly janitor, Joe Meach, while cleaning up at the Superman Museum, got electrified by miniature statues of the Legion of Superheroes. And thanks to a Brainiac 5 goof, the inanimate statues all had the powers of the Legionnaires. And now so does Joe. All of them. Combined. So he has the combined physical powers of Ultra Boy, Mon-El, and Supergirl. In fact, in his first fight with Superman, they don't even fight, as the Composite Superman just grabs Superman, places a kryptonite ring on him, thanks to Element Lad's powers, and drops him in a gorge. In future fights, he'd slap Superman around just for fun. The reason he looked stupid, thanks to Chameleon Boy's powers, was because he was appearing in the world's finest, and he was claiming he was superior to the classic Superman-Batman partnership. Which he is, but come on now. More recently, they've tried to reboot him in the pages of the Legion of Superheroes as just the Composite Man. But there's no denying he's the toughest villain Superman ever faced. And luckily for Superman, his powers were always temporary. Well, there you go. 10 of the toughest villains Superman ever faced. So the next time you hear someone say, Superman's too powerful and Darkseid is the only real match for him, you can say, bull. And then proceed to bore him just as I did you. But before you go and do that, let me say thanks for watching and let me know if you think I missed somebody. It can happen. And if you could be so kind to subscribe, I promise to be back next month to bore you again.